Okay, everybody. We made it till Friday. I hope you guys have a good weekend. I just heard from some people who watched the stream last night that they they kind of didn't really understand the Amanda Knox talking dolls at the end, and it is really such a useful video to see how Amanda Knox changed her story in her own words. So each doll says Amanda Knox's own words at different times, starting with the crime scene. So if you're interested in Amanda Knox, if you're enjoying these podcasts, please like, share, subscribe. And if you have a question for me, just send it through the super chat. Okay, so let's just pull this up one more time. Okay.
These are my Amanda Knox talking.
Hold on. Let me get rid of this first. Okay. So here are the talking dolls. And they all say Amanda's exact quotes, starting with the crime scene. So here we go.
Dolls. There are 8 different Amanda dolls in total, one for each of her stories. I didn't make them myself, they're the work of a terrific female artist with whom I swapped Mad Magazine number 2 a couple of years back. The first doll is called Crime Scene Amanda.
This morning, I went to the house, and I found the front door open and blood in my bathroom. I took a shower. We've had burglars. Meredith always locks her door. Even just going for a shower. Break it down? Do you really have to? Oh my God! They're screaming. I haven't seen.
What I really like.
So what's interesting about that is it really triggers women. So you have to imagine Amanda Knox's house had a door that you had to lock. The front door had to be locked to shut fully. So if you didn't lock it, it would be wide open. So you come home, it's not usual that the door is going to be open. You want to take a shower and you see blood in your bathroom, door open, and you just want to get vulnerable and naked and like ignore it. You just think maybe Meredith, the neat freak who you share this bathroom with, maybe had a menstrual problem and bled all over it. It just doesn't feel right to most women as something someone would do, a innocent person would do who's not making up a story to cover up their involvement in the crime. And when it's your house, of course, it's going to point right to you. You have the keys, so hence the stage break-in, hence the door wide open. And so you can see she went. What's interesting is after she took a shower, she says she went back to Raffaele's house, told him about it, and they had breakfast for an hour. Not like they didn't just rush back over there, So it's either you're concerned. So I guess she's just not very concerned at all, but concerned enough to get her boyfriend to come back. And that really doesn't fit the presentation that she saw when she came into her house, according to her. But obviously, I'm going to say it's a made up story. And the courts, every court, including the court that let her go, agrees that Amanda staged the break-in, and Amanda had blood on her hands. She washed Meredith Kircher's blood off her hands, and she was there at the crime scene.
Like about these dolls is they say Amanda's own words. The sources for those words you just heard were Romanelli and Mellis. The next doll is Police Station Amanda.
I know everything. I was the first to find her. What do you want to know? What do you think? She fucking bled to death.
It was pertinent.
Okay, so that's what Amanda Knox said when one of Meredith's friends said, I hope she didn't suffer too much. She said, what the F do you think? She effing bled to death. And they found that really strange and really off note and aggressive. And you can see this even in her interviews today, that she's very resentful still towards Meredith. In her interview with Joe Rogan, she calls her the victim, like just really with just a lot of resentment. They were not friends. Not friends. They tried to be in the beginning. They tried to do things together. And Amanda Knox just was what I'd consider to be the roommate from hell, playing the same guitar note over and over again, not flushing the toilet, not washing really. She smelled. She didn't participate in the chores. And she was there, Amanda Knox was there to have a good time. She was taking one class that she got no credit for. You know, those credits did not transfer over to the University of Washington. She wasn't some kind of exchange student. She was over in Perugia, which was known as a partying town, to have a good time. Meredith, on the other hand, had a full course load and was very studious, very brilliant. People talked about her notes being just incredibly well organized and detailed. And there's also an issue with the boys downstairs. So if you look at their house, right? So this is the upstairs is where Philomena, Laura, Amanda, and Meredith lived. So the downstairs is where Giacomo, and that's one of the sources of contention between them, because Amanda really liked this. Like, there's like four boys, young men living downstairs. And Amanda really liked Giacomo, but Giacomo was not interested in Amanda. He started dating Meredith. And that was a real bruise to Amanda Knox's ego. Does that mean she murdered? Was that a motive for murder? Motivation was never established. But like I said, even the court that let her go, that's the court that let her walk, established that there was more than one attacker, that she was there at the scene, washed Meredith's blood off her hands and her feet, and that the Philomena's room, the room of the stage break-in, was in fact staged, that was not a break-in. This was an intruder. So this had to be done from someone on the inside.
Hayward and Rodenhurst, who heard those words come out of her mouth. The next doll is Email Amanda. Now, this is where her story starts to genuinely change, whereas...
So just to explain what this email is, this was an email that Amanda wrote home to everyone in her email address book, describing what had just happened in her home and the murder of her roommate. So this is, the story changes, pivots once again here.
At the cottage, she told everyone she wasn't worried in the slightest by Meredith's door being locked, and that it was a normal thing. In this email,
I knocked, louder and louder, until I was really banging on her door and shouting her name. No response. Panicking, I ran out onto our terrace to see if maybe I could see over the ledge into her room from the window, but I couldn't see in.
The next doll is Kitchen Amanda.
So this is where she first accuses her boss, Patrick Lumumba, who ran a club called Le Chic, and she worked there. She was about to be fired, and Meredith was going to take her shifts. So, Meredith was increasingly becoming Amanda Knox's rival. And as we have seen, when people are jealous, they can do really, really vicious things.
Cara and McNeely are the sources here.
I met Patrick at the basketball court, and I went home with him. Patrick had sex with Meredith. I remember, confusedly, that he's the one who killed her. Think I stayed in the kitchen. I heard Meredith's screams. I was frightened and put my hands over my ears.
The following day, Amanda personally...
So right then and there, they went and they got Patrick Lumumba and arrested him, put him in jail where he sat for 2 weeks. She never retracted that story. Never said, "Oh, wait, Amanda Knox supporters will tell you left and right." She retracted. She's not retracted. She's been convicted of what is falsely accusing, slandering. She's a convicted slanderer. She's never paid him the money she owes him for doing that. And as much as she can apologize in her interviews, or the few interviews she's done where it's brought up, mostly she does really softball interviews. When it's brought up, she talks about how she feels so badly, and it was the police who misunderstood this text message she got from him where he said, "I don't need you at Le Chic tonight." And she said, "Okay, see you later." But that it was lost in translation, that "see you later." They really thought that Patrick and Amanda had plans to see each other later. And isn't it interesting that she puts Patrick on the basketball courts, a place where she was spotted with Raph on the night of the murder, and it's also the place where the boys played. I keep calling the boys. Forgive me, I'm old. The boys played with Rudy Goudet. So she's substituting Patrick for Rudy to cover up Rudy, because Rudy could tell everything if she right? So protecting herself by protecting Rudy.
He requested a piece of paper and a pen and voluntarily wrote a memo. Here are the words of Memo Amanda.
I know that Raffaele has placed evidence against me, saying that I was not with him on the night of Meredith's murder. I know the police are confused as to why it took me so long to call. I stand by my statements that I made last night about events that could have taken place in my home with Patrick. But I want to make very clear that these events seem more unreal to me than what I said before. I don't remember for sure if I was at my house that night.
Obviously, the source in that case is Amanda's own handwriting, and
so she called that note. She asked for a piece of paper, and when she handed it to the police, she said, "This is my gift." That was her gift, to double down on falsely accusing her boss of murder. And I think it's really interesting, the language that she uses, these events. So Meredith's murder was an event. And the first thing that I associate that word events with is those movies or books, the events of this, right? So I don't know anybody would call a murder an event. And she's sort of leaving room. She's not sure. She's pretty sure, this is my gift. I'm writing it down in my own handwriting, but I just want to leave enough wiggle room should I need to change my story again. Not sus at all. Absolutely. Right? The police just had tunnel vision. She was just, pretty American girl, anti-Americanism.
Actually, that's the source for the next doll, which is called Journal Amanda, where she appears to change her mind again about who the murderer might be.
Maybe Raffaele went to Meredith's house, raped and killed her.
Okay,
so if you miss that, it goes really fast, but if you miss that, in her journal, she is writing that maybe her boyfriend at the time went over without her and did the deed alone. And it's interesting, Raph's prison journal, also he's writing down about these imaginary, saying once he obviously had heard about that they had found the knife and he was worried about the DNA, he made up this story. He said, I remember when Meredith came over to the apartment and we were cooking and I pricked her with the tip of the knife. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. And Meredith said, oh, it's not a problem. So why is he tailoring the evidence in his journal? And also, Amanda is heard through secret recordings with her through visits with her mother, and I think I'm probably going to cover some of those recordings. She's saying, Raph had this knife. So they were worried about this knife, and it's Rudy Gude did this alone. Not only does no court accept that looked at all the evidence in this case that one person did it alone, but also, why would Rudy Gude use two knives and return one to Raph's apartment, to the drawer in Raph's apartment? It's nonsensical. And this is why she was convicted of this twice.
Okay. At last we get to Courtroom Amanda. Some people may remember this.
When I got out of the shower, I saw that I had forgotten my towel, so I wanted to use the bath mat to get to my room. And that's when I saw the bloody stain that was on the bath mat. I used the mat to kind of hop over to my room and into my room. I took my towel and I used the mat to get back to the bathroom.
Those words are in the court record.
So that's Amanda tailoring her story to the hallway that she cleaned. So she said she used her mat as a kind of like magic carpet to go in between, like shuffled on it, the bath mat, with a full imprint of Raph's footprint in Meredith's blood on the mat. It's in last night's live stream. Check it out. You can see it fully there. And they tried to sell that as Rudy's. And boy, it's a perfect match for Raph's footprint. But that's her story, that she used the bath mat to go in between the shower and her room. And her room was very, very dark. So it's significant that her only light source was found in Meredith's room.
The judge was Dr. Giancarlo Massey. Finally, Prison Amanda. The source for these words was a hidden microphone.
I can't say anything but the truth, because I know I was there. I mean, I can't lie.
Okay, so there she goes. She puts herself there again at the scene of the crime again. So I wanted to talk a little bit about her behavior, odd behavior, doing cartwheels and splits in the police station. And when she was taken through the crime scene and asked to put on foot protectors and a hairnet or a hair protector, I'm not sure exactly what you call that. She put them on and she put out her hands like she was a vaudeville performer and said, ta-da. They found that very odd. And I wanted to, it did not go unnoticed when Jodi Arias did the same kind of weird handstands and yoga. And I thought we could take a look at that. My theory on this is if you're responsible for a murder and you have some kind of antisocial personality, psychopath, you are going to want to look as relaxed and innocent. And, the things that she brought up that they were doing besides smoking pot, reading Harry Potter, watching Amelie, were all media that's very innocent and fanciful and light and gay. And Michael Peterson, anyone remember the staircase case, the murder of Kathleen Peterson, when he said we were watching American sweethearts together. And he sort of really emphasized it, like we were just watching this like really wholesome, because that's who we are. We are wholesome people I'm a wholesome guy who would not do this murder. So I just wanted to look just a little bit at Jodi Arias in the interrogation room. Oh, there she goes. There she is. You know, she knows she's on camera. She knows she knows they're watching her. And so she thinks this is what relaxed people do, but she's so out of touch with normal behavior that she's being questioned because of her ex-boyfriend's murder. Ditto Amanda Knox, same thing. Does that thing alone make her the killer? No. Does her behavior alone? No, we're looking at the totality of the evidence. Yep. So I just wanted to kind of keep it brief and tonight and just really go over that again because it's just a really useful tool to see how Amanda Knox's story changed so many times and why she was considered not only a suspect, why she was convicted of this murder, why she was, arrested for it, why she was narrowed down. Everyone was put under the same kind of pressure. Philomena, Laura, etc. It's Amanda and Raf's story that fell apart. And after their story fell apart, they found a whole lot of evidence, DNA evidence. There's Raf's footprint in blood on the mat. There's his DNA on the bra clasp. There's the mixed DNA of Meredith and Amanda in Philomena's room, the bathroom, and the hallway. So it's, when Amanda and her supporters talk about it, they reduce the crime scene to just Meredith's room. And that's convenient because that's how innocence fraud is done. It's done by omission. It's done by taking out things. And then adding in things like yesterday I talked about the mobster who came in and testified that they had it all wrong, that it was actually a mob hit, that they were going there to steal lard and they got the wrong place. So that guy eventually admitted that he was looking for money for his sex change. I mean, you could not write a crazier story in the middle of the Amanda Knox saga than that one. And it's interesting that if Amanda Knox is innocent, why didn't, why is her defense, switched up? They switched from the mobster to from Rudy Did Alone to the mobster, back to Rudy Did Alone. And that's how her story went from I was alone with Raph all night to no, I was there and I watched my boss do it, back to I was alone with Raph. And that was contradicted by Raph's computer. And it was meaning their computer was active and their cell phones were turned off at the same time about 9:00 that night, between 8:45, 9:00 that night. And then they were turned on very early the next morning when they said they were sleeping in. So they did not want to be disturbed. They didn't want to be tracked. Were they stalking Meredith? Meredith was coming home right around that time, right around that 9:00. They also had a story that they went out earlier that evening to go grocery shopping. And then once out, they realized they didn't need anything and came home. Who does that? Just lots of strange little things like that. So I'm going to leave it here. I just wanted to once again kind of go over it because yesterday's stream was so long. Did you guys hear that? Got an ambulance going by. That it really kind of got lost. It was right at the end and it's very quick. Even I, who consider myself pretty well versed in the case, had to watch that video a couple times to really reorient myself as to when she was saying what she was saying, how it went. So that's Amanda Knox through the mouth of dolls, telling her stories. Have a great weekend, everyone.